It was the 4th of July, just like any other year. A day of celebration, of fireworks, of affection. But it was also the day when basketball rewrote its history forever.
Some breaking news this midday. Kevin Durant just announced he will be leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Kevin Durant now is a villain.
In 2016, it took 3 words to turn everything upside down. My next chapter. The Players Tribune, a website that served as a portal for player expression, uploaded an article that day that would destroy the balance of basketball. An article that would change the legacy of a superstar forever. An article that marked a before and after in sports history.
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
But that being said, he went to the team that beat him.
Kevin Durant had announced his decision, one that left no one indifferent. In an article written by Durant himself, he defined the future of 2 franchises. One of them became a powerhouse that dominated the league for years, a team that seemed to be unrivaled, and if it maintained its cohesiveness, would be impossible to knock off its throne. For many, the best team ever assembled. But the other was not as fortunate. Their future was completely blackened by a tragic backstab from whom they least expected. This is the story of the worst betrayal in NBA history.
And thank you for betraying all of Oklahoma.
It's human nature. When you have it all, you get used to it. You always want something more. Ever since the Seattle Supersonics drafted him 2nd overall in the 2007 draft, behind only Greg Oden, Kevin Durant proved to be a superstar.
Durant steps into a 3 for the win. It's automatic good! Kevin!
7 feet tall, 7'5" wingspan. He could slash.
Durant coming to the rim. Oh, bring the
He had the handles of a guard.
Rafer, he knew he had some rebounders on the glass. Durant to the basket for 2.
He could create his shot from anywhere inside of his absurd range. Fade always, step backs. If it was your duty to guard him, you would soon realize what the kid from Washington was capable of. The Sonics didn't just realize that KD had the tools to become a historic scorer. They realized he had the whole toolbox at his disposal. When a player like that arrives in your franchise, you have to take advantage of it. You have to shield him and build around him. Sam Presti, the new general manager of Oklahoma City Thunder, was well aware of this.
GM Sam Presti. I was going to say Sonics, but we've left that name behind. So the team that's coming to Oklahoma City. Sam, talk a little bit about the Oklahoma City operations.
Obviously, first and foremost, from a basketball standpoint, ways to improve the team. We feel really good about the direction of our team.
You talk about the young nucleus, and obviously at the center of that, Kevin Durant. How much better can this guy get in year 2?
We'll see. I know one thing is that he's going to work to maximize that opportunity to get better, as will all the guys on our team.
A generational player is a ticket to the finals, a chance. It's the magic ace you need on the flop to win the poker hand. Because everyone knows that, without a superstar, it's practically impossible to compete at the highest level. The Thunder clung to KD for what they hoped would be the rest of his career. Or at least, that's what they hoped for. Even more so in the case of a player who did not even need to go through the adaptation process that future NBA superstars usually go through. At just 21 years old, Durant led the NBA in scoring and was runner-up in the MVP race.
The NBA every single year. Crossover on Gay. Oh, so good! At 16 points right now. Durant for 30. Got it! The youngest scoring champion in the history of the NBA.
At just 23 years old, he learned how to lead a team in the best league in the world and carry it to the finals.
Are you sure? You're sure you're only 23?
Yeah, I'm 23.
This game tonight was described
At just 25 years old, he was able to win the MVP for the first time in his career.
But when I walked into the gym, I fell in love with the game. And I didn't fall in love with it just because it was me playing. I fell in love with it because I got guys like this. I know you guys think I forgot Russ. But I could speak all night about Russell. An emotional guy who or run through a wall for me. I love you, man. I love you. A lot of people put unfair criticism on you, and I'm the first to have your back, man, through it all. I love you.
Kevin was not just a generational player, nor was he just the most lethal scorer in the NBA in the final days of the deadball era. He was in a position to bet on becoming the best player of all time. But all players like that need a franchise that's up to the task, right? Despite the enormous talent that Sam Presti has and has had as a general manager throughout his career, the owners of the franchise were not in the same boat. Clay Bennett, avoiding entering the luxury tax, forced Presti to choose 3 of the 4 stars he had discovered himself. Or, in other words, by refusing to pay the fine, Oklahoma had to give up a future generational player like James Harden.
We were very transparent with James that if this was not acceptable, then we were going to have to move towards making the best decision for the franchise, given the fact that it was becoming a reality that more than likely he'd be signing elsewhere at the end of the season.
And after making that decision, the Thunder were never able to reach the finals again. Part of the blame lay with injuries. In addition to losing Harden, the Thunder lost their emerging momentum to long-term health problems for their 2 superstars. It seemed that somehow the franchise was cursed, and despite having enormous talent in their roster, the rise of the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference relegated them to the background. However, back in 2016, 4 years after the first finals run in franchise history since moving to Oklahoma City, things finally fell into place again. The Thunder found their rhythm. Their new philosophy was based on a dynamic and efficient offense built on a surprisingly strong defense.
Blocked by Ibaka. Great timing by Ibaka.
The Thunder won 55 games during the regular season and qualified for the playoffs in 3rd place in the Western Conference. Only the revolutionary Warriors and the long-standing but still relevant Spurs could obtain a better record. And this time, KD's Thunder believed they had enough to overthrow this oligopoly that had dominated the conference for years. Especially in the case of the Warriors, who seemed immortal. The obstacle that prevented Oklahoma from having realistic aspirations of winning the West. Deep down, an incredible rivalry was brewing. It took a while for the Thunder to show that this time they were serious. They eliminated the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games in the first round, just before beating the Spurs in 6 games in a series that nobody expected them to win. Their centerless lineup with Dion Waiters, Serge Ibaka, Andre Robertson, Russell Westbrook, and KD himself was giving them incredible results. And the dynamic was so good that many people thought they might be able to defeat Golden State at the conference finals. I mean, at first it was a utopia. When they beat San Antonio, it started to look like a possibility. And when they went 3-1 up in the series against that unforgettable 73-9 team, it became a certainty.
Westbrook for 3.
The Thunder only needed 1 game to reach the finals again. Despite leading Game 6 by 7 points with just 5 minutes to go, the Thunder succumbed to the pressure. They disappointed their fans once again. They were unable to beat the Warriors in any of the remaining 3 games. A historic debacle that, however, did not go down in history simply for losing. In what was Kevin Durant's last game with the Thunder, the only sweet note in the sourness of this situation was that they could try again the following year. After coming so close, it would have been stupid not to try again. But, as I said, it's just human nature. When you have it all, you get used to it. You always want something more. Kevin Durant entered the free agency market while people expected him to stay in Oklahoma. Of course, there were teams like the Lakers or the Celtics willing to convince him, but what no one expected was what actually happened. On July 4th, the website The Players Tribune published a short article signed by Kevin Durant. The article went viral within minutes of being released to the public. In it, Kevin said that they had been a very difficult few weeks. In it, Kevin also thanked Oklahoma for the incredible years that they enjoyed together. But in that article, Durant also announced that he had made the decision to to join the Golden State Warriors, the team that had won 73 games in the regular season last season, the team that just a few weeks earlier had knocked the Thunder out of the playoffs. This decision by one person marked the beginning of a new era in the NBA. This betrayal heralded the arrival of a new basketball landscape that left its mark on all of those who experienced it. Basketball fans around the world were alarmed at how this decision destroyed the balance of the sport.
Thank you, Kevin Durant, for not being the person you've ever been. Thank you for not being the person you've always said you are. And thank you for betraying all of Oklahoma. Let's go! Rip it! Trash! It's all trash! You're all trash!
How even the NBA had to make an effort to intervene and veto this move. But there was nothing to be done. The signing was legal. The Warriors' good economic situation, together with the huge inflation of the salary gap, had saved them enough money. Both he and Durant had the right to make this decision, even if it was not universally perceived as morally correct. Snake, ring chaser, soft, traitor. Social networks were filled with posts of hatred towards one of the faces of the NBA, to the point that Kevin doubted whether he made the right decision. Durant realized after the news had come out that there was no going back.
And our gymnastics team was so dominant that Kevin Durant told me he wants to play for them next year.
All basketball fans were determined to let him know that his legacy had been shattered. It didn't matter if he was about to win his first ring with the Warriors, his first Finals MVP. It didn't matter if they were going to build the greatest dynasty in the history of the league, because that was what everyone expected, what everyone knew they were going to do. When the challenge becomes too easy, it stops being a challenge, and it becomes a simple formality. Now, the alarmism was justified. Just as everyone predicted, the Warriors were unstoppable. They were invincible, and the only ones who could finish them off were themselves. Golden State won 2 championships in a row, even competing against prime LeBron James. Their overwhelming superiority allowed them to surf through the regular seasons on autopilot and then offer their most aggressive version in the playoffs. For many people, the roster that Kerr had at his disposal was the best team ever assembled. But even so, even if they knew they could beat any team, there was one team KD didn't want to face. Of course, we're talking about the Thunder. When Kevin returned to Oklahoma with the Warriors jersey, all his former teammates wanted to make him see that he had made a mistake. All his former fans too. The energy in those games was so disruptive. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in my life.
There were hundreds of Cupcake shirts and signs throughout
The situation was so distressing that the threats stopped to be just threats. Legacy is not something tangible, objective. It is not something that can be counted. Legacy is simply a collective memory. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you've achieved. And it doesn't matter how talented you are. If the fans don't remember you with love, Durant, like any player of that caliber, is someone who cares about his legacy. So much so that in 2017, he was caught using burner accounts on Twitter to try to defend himself.
Do you have burner accounts?
Yes.
Because deep down, he wasn't happy with the decision he had made in his career. Even in every answer he gives on social media, he claims to be.
They can say whatever they want about me. I chose to do something. I chose my own path. I did something that I wanted to do. But it's all about the game. You know, I step inside these lines. I know who I am. I know what I bring. I elevate, players around me. I elevate their game. I listen. I work hard as I can. That's all that matters.
Although what he never seems to understand is that his decision had a large number of triggering effects that only affected himself. Even more than the legacy of 2 franchises, this betrayal changed the legacy of one player forever. We are, of course, talking about Kevin Durant himself. His decision made him one of the most hated players in the league, responsible for removing all emotion from the best basketball product in the world. In a way, the veracity of his legacy was also called into question, arguing that he had to join the best team in history in order to finally win. But what is clear is that, since that moment, Durant has tried to make up for that decision by winning a ring with another franchise, a desire that he has never been able to fulfill, and which, as time passes, seems less and less realistic.